Hello everyone. India's press freedom ranking has taken a hit, as it has slipped to 161 out of 180 countries, according to the Reporters Without Borders (RSF) 2023 World Press Freedom Index. This decline is a matter of great concern for journalists and media organizations across the country, who have been working tirelessly to report the news and hold those in power accountable. The current situation of press freedom in India has been marred by several disadvantages. One of the major concerns is the increasing number of attacks on journalists and media houses. According to the RSF report, there has been a rise in violence against journalists in India, including killings, arrests, and physical attacks. This has led to a growing sense of fear and insecurity among journalists, which in turn can affect their ability to report freely and independently. Another disadvantage is the government's growing interference in the media. The report notes that the Indian government has been using various means, including legal action and financial pressure, to silence critical voices in the media. This has resulted in a decline in the quality of journalism and a narrowing of the space for free and independent reporting. The rise of online harassment and threats is also a growing concern for journalists in India. Social media platforms have become a breeding ground for hate speech and fake news, which can be used to target journalists and undermine their credibility. This not only affects the individual journalist but also the entire profession, as it erodes public trust in the media. The decline in press freedom in India is a matter of great concern, not only for journalists but also for the wider public. A free and independent media is essential for a healthy democracy, as it provides citizens with accurate and reliable information and helps to hold those in power accountable. It is therefore imperative that steps are taken to ensure that the press is able to operate freely and without fear of violence or intimidation. Journalist killings have become a disturbing trend in India, with several journalists being targeted and murdered over the past few years. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, India ranks among the top 10 countries in the world where journalists are murdered and their killers go free. The increasing number of such incidents has raised serious concerns about the safety and security of journalists in India. One of the most high-profile cases in recent years was the murder of journalist Gauri Lankesh in September 2017. Lankesh, a well-known critic of the right-wing politics, was shot dead outside her house in Bengaluru by unidentified assailants. Her murder sparked widespread protests and condemnation from across the country, with many calling for a thorough investigation into the incident. Another case that grabbed headlines was the murder of Shujat Bukhari, a journalist from Jammu and Kashmir, who was shot dead by unidentified gunmen in June 2018. Bukhari was a prominent journalist and the editor of the daily newspaper, Rising Kashmir. His killing was widely condemned by journalists and media organizations across the country. These are just a few examples of the many journalists who have been targeted and killed in India. In most cases, the killers have gone unpunished, which has created a culture of impunity and emboldened those who seek to silence critical voices. Journalist killings not only pose a threat to individual journalists but also undermine the entire profession. They create a chilling effect, where journalists may self-censor out of fear for their safety, leading to a narrowing of the space for free and independent reporting. This, in turn, can have a negative impact on the functioning of democracy, as citizens are deprived of accurate and reliable information. The issue of journalist killings in India is a matter of grave concern and requires urgent attention from the government and law enforcement agencies. Steps need to be taken to ensure the safety and security of journalists, and those responsible for such heinous crimes must be brought to justice. India has seen a sharp rise in the use of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act (UAPA) against journalists and activists in recent years. The UAPA is a draconian law that allows the government to arrest and detain individuals on vague and broad charges of terrorism, often without sufficient evidence or due process. Several journalists and activists have been targeted under the UAPA, leading to concerns about the shrinking space for free speech and dissent in India. Many of these cases have been widely criticized for being politically motivated and an attempt to silence critical voices. One such case is the arrest of journalist Siddique Kappan in October 2020. Kappan, who was on his way to report on the Hathras gang rape case, was arrested by the Uttar Pradesh police under the UAPA on charges of sedition and promoting enmity between different groups. His arrest was widely criticized by journalists and media organizations, who called for his immediate release. Another case that has received widespread attention is the arrest of activist and academic Anand Teltumbde in April 2020. Teltumbde, who has been a vocal critic of the government's policies, was arrested under the UAPA on charges of conspiring to incite violence and create unrest. His arrest was widely condemned by human rights organizations, who called for his immediate release. The use of the UAPA against journalists and activists has raised concerns about the state of democracy and human rights in India. The law is seen as a tool to stifle dissent and curtail free speech, rather than a means to address genuine threats to national security. Several books and reports have been published in India documenting these cases and highlighting the need for greater protection of free speech and human rights. These books and reports play a crucial role in raising awareness and bringing attention to these issues, both within India and internationally. Overall, the use of the UAPA against journalists and activists in India is a cause for grave concern and requires urgent attention from the government and civil society organizations. Steps need to be taken to ensure that the law is not misused to silence critical voices and curtail free speech, and that those who are unjustly arrested and detained are released immediately. Thank you for watching Crime Today News.